Hey everybody, this is Roberto Blake helping you create something awesome today with the amazing Marissa from Shade TV. How are you doing today?
I'm doing amazing.
Thank you for taking the time to do an interview with me. We just wrapped up VidCon, not to date this podcast too much, but how was your VidCon experience being a featured creator?
So this was my second VidCon, a little different experience than last year. I was still a speaker, but I was featured this year with the YouTube team. And I got to meet some incredible individuals. The panels were different this year, which was really fun and exciting. But I mean, I don't even know how to explain it. It's just the energy here that people bring is just so full and warm and consuming and leaves you inspired to just like get out there and keep grinding.
I know every time I come to a creator event, I leave with more energy and I feel motivated and inspired to create new things. But for the people in my audience who aren't familiar with you and your content, why don't you tell them a little bit about that, since especially now that you're officially in the Silver Play Button Club. Congratulations on 100,000 subscribers.
So I actually looked up to Roberto before I started my channel. One of the things that I really wanted to understand and educate myself on was how to start successful at the beginning and not like 5 years down the road.
Yep.
And I, of course, was broke on my couch during COVID.
Yep.
And in need of some way to pay for my rent. I'd always really wanted to create content, but instead, of course, of saving money, I was looking for sneakers to purchase. And I realized there were absolutely no women creating content on sneakers, which is weird because both men and women need sneakers.
Sneakerheads of all kinds, right?
I mean, unless you're telling me somebody has 3 feet and, you know, they only want to wear heels. I don't know. I think almost everyone owns a pair of sneakers in their closet. But it was an underrepresented demographic. I was tired of seeing hairy legs in shoes. So I was like, we got to diversify this. I think we can do something
So
here.
an underserved market.
Underserved market.
That's what I always say is the opportunity. Yeah.
Exactly. And the other thing was I wanted to see the shoes come to life with some styling. And no one was really styling it. It was literally ankle down. That was it.
So no cinematography, no storytelling, no magic.
And I come from the modeling industry.
Yep.
So, of course, like it would be weird to do photo shoots where, you know, it's super cropped. Even when I'm shooting so I'm also a foot and hand model. I know this is really weird, but.
No, this is interesting inside baseball. It's something different we don't get.
You probably see my feet and my hands in a lot of different places, but, you know, it's unrecognizable. So you would never have known it's me, except I know because I've seen my legs and feet all over subways, on top of taxi cabs, where the buses are.
I used to be in advertising. I used to do billboards, bus signage, OOH, everything out of home, subway signage. So yeah, I'm very familiar with this kind of thing.
So Roberto may have actually put my legs or feet or hands somewhere on something maybe.
Nah, I was doing that way back in the day. This is more than a decade ago.
Okay. Maybe not. Maybe somebody similar though. I don't know. But yeah, so I just got this idea, like there is something here. I feel like I can really create a brand new community that hasn't existed. And I really want to make it a safe place for women to be able to feel like they have a place to be a part of. And of course, I mean, women have different problems than men, unless you wear heels all the time, Roberto. I don't know.
Nah, not really.
Okay. Well, I realized there was something lacking, and my dad was actually one of the first influencers back in the 80s. So he ran with Carl Lewis, FloJo the Great, the Joining Cursors on the Pan American team, did the Olympic trials for years, and I feel like all the best track stars, for some reason, they were all in the South in the 80s training together.
Right.
But they used to literally get sent insane amounts of boxes of sneakers. And so I grew up seeing this.
And you fell in love with sneakers.
100%. I was like, Dad, I'm going to be like my dad one day. Adidas is going to call me up and be like, hey, I just sent you 200 boxes of sneakers.
So you're like, your dad was one of, like you said, the OG influencers in terms of what they used to be a brand ambassador. And, you know, what they would have as an endorsement. And it wasn't that he was like a traditional celebrity, but somebody in the arena of like sports and excellence, and would be like a really good person who could endorse and be a representative of the brand. And that's basically the prototype for what content creators on social media are today.
Oh, 100%. I mean, it's crazy to think, because that wasn't honestly that long ago, but even just product wise, testing out product for the first time, he was one of those guys where it was like he would give the intel and information back to the brands and say, listen, like I ran a meet in these and just this was a little off. We need to tweak it here, tweak it there. And even just, being on TV or having that live audience perspective of, wow, like, what's Garland wearing? Those are so sick, and people are wanting to buy into that. So before, of course, we had social media, it was that in-person effect of having that endorsement from those brands.
I want to circle back to that on brand deals in a minute, but I wanted to ask you, so as somebody who is a pandemic creator who's actually still surviving and thriving post-pandemic, what were the early days of your creator journey like? Like when you first started uploading, what was that like?
I mean, I will say there were some bumps and obstacles in the road, but that was to be expected. I think for me, what made things easier was really being goal-oriented. I love a whiteboard. Let me tell you, I love erasing things, love adding things, I love checking off things, highlighting things. There's just something about that manual piece that just is so reassuring. Yes, I love it.
Smell of the markers.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I do. And then it dries up and I got to go buy a brand new pack from Costco because I like to buy things in bulk, which I need to stop doing that because I don't need 20
Hey,
pens,
there's nothing wrong with Costco and everything. Don't ever take my $1.50 hot dogs away from me. I will cut you.
And it includes a drink too, Roberto. I mean,
right.
You can't beat it. But I think that starting out with some goals in mind and really having, some really intense goals of like, this is where I see my channel in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. And these are like the ultimate goals. But also when I started my channel, I didn't name it my name. People always ask me like, why did you keep such a broad name? And it's because I wanted to think of it as more of a media outlet. That's always what I wanted it to be.
You wanted to be a brand. You wanted to be a media company and you wanted to be the host of your own programming.
Yes. And if I wanted to extend it and add different personalities, it's now not just belonging to just me. Like Shade TV could be a complete whole media, entity where I can now bring on 5 personalities if I wanted to slowly integrate them and introduce them to my audience.
I think that's a great way to extend the lifespan of a creator business. You know me, I'm a big fan of personal brand. My YouTube channel is my name. In some ways, I actually kind of wish I had gone a different direction with that. Sometimes I debate it. I don't think there's anything wrong with building a personal brand or building a YouTube channel around your name, but you have to live with it as you evolve and change and you grow. And that can be a little hard to pivot, transition. But the thing is, I think when something's a media company, that vehicle has a lot more longevity than most people will have with a personal brand.
Marissa Hill's also a very common name. There was like a baby boomer moment of Marissas and Hills all at the same time. And I don't know why, because my name used to be so unique. Yeah. And now I look up my name, I'm like, there's a Marissa Hill that's a gyno. There's a Marissa Hill that's an attorney. There's a Marissa Hill that's a doctor and surgeon. So I'm like, I guess, there's a lot of love for Marissa Hills out there. And so it is kind of nice to be associated with just more of an uncommon name where people know me as that a little bit more. And it's easier for them to remember that because it's not, such a common name that people utilize.
So there's a lesson in that. When people are looking up your content or your brand on social media, your name should be something that is easy to spell, easy to pronounce, and easy to remember. Those are the 3 main rules when it really comes down to it. And the 4th one would be something that's unique enough to stand out and not be common. So I would say that, you figured out or intuited that very early, which is really smart. And I don't think it hurt any of your success.
Yeah, I mean, I would hope so. I always think I have great ideas and I hope they succeed, which sometimes, as you know, may not always work out. But again, that was part of the structure before I started the channel. There was a lot of, groundwork before it was even up and running, and also learning everything from scratch, learning how to edit, learning how to film, lighting, all of that wasn't at the start of my channel. I was shooting out of my kitchen, Roberto. I had
So you had no background in the cinematography, and you have some of the best cinematography in your entire niche on YouTube. In fact, a lot of people now, they copycat and ape your style now, but you had to learn all of that from scratch during the pandemic, and then you still managed to grow to 100K in about 3 years.
Yeah, so...
Which is also about roughly the time it took me.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I always say everyone's journey is different, right? We all have our different route. Like if we all left from New York at the same time, we would all get to LA at a different time range if we
Facts.
took a road trip, right? So I knew my journey was going to be different. I didn't want to compare myself to any other creator, and I knew that I was diving into a male demographic where I was going to have to fight for those eyeballs and to share them. And what a lot of people don't understand is when you're a female and you have to convince men to also want to watch your videos over other men, like how do you do that?
Well,
And
because people watch mostly people they identify with on some level. But I do think that something interesting, and you can speak to this more than I could, that happened, I think, for you is that you found that there's a little bit of a universality to the thing you said earlier. Everyone likes sneakers.
Everyone likes sneakers, but I wanted to go back to the quality.
Yeah.
The way I was going to tap into everyone was I wanted to give everyone the highest quality content out there in my space. That was my focus. It wasn't going to matter if you were a guy or a girl. I wanted you to come to my channel because we had high quality content. It was educational. You were leaving my channel with something. And every time you would come back, I wanted that consistency.
So you weren't for high effort, meaning that someone couldn't necessarily just start off the street and ape your quality.
Yes.
So it's going to be high effort. There's going to be a barrier to competition. Mm-hmm. So that's number one. That's your kind of your first moat. Number two, you were going to look at the market, you analyze the market, and you said, I will produce a higher quality product than everybody else. Three, I'll deliver more value than what's out there in the market. So you'll be undeniable here. And then you were going to be consistent. So it's like, hey, on a long enough timeline, you can't avoid me. You're going to see my stuff and you're going to fall in love with it. And you're going to respect it and you're going to like it because you can't, you can't sit here and say, I didn't put in the effort. You can't say that this isn't a quality experience and you can't deny the value. And then I'm going to just keep showing up and I'm going to beat down those doors and I'm going to wear you down.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, prime example, and I know there's no proving this necessarily, but we started with this concept. I wanted to give people 3 different options of looks, and I wanted to take those options out into the elements. I wanted to go places and showcase the product, not so much e-com. I mean, everyone can do e-com. It's easy. But did I want to go the easy route or did I want to go the difficult route and see it pay off? So I decided...
So that high level of effort and difficulty.
Exactly, which is I'm going to go outside, whether it's hot, cold. I mean, I've shot when it's like below 0 outside. I've shot when it's 100 degrees outside. It's miserable, yes, but it's worth it in the end because of the value of the quality of the content that I'm showcasing to you with the product.
Right.
So we really established ourselves as that one channel that will always give you 3 guaranteed looks on showcasing the sneaker, whether it's a dressed up look, it's a casual look, it's a streetwear, gender neutral look. I wanted to provide almost a storytelling scheme of, I'm not giving you the answer of whether or not you should be buying this product. I just want to paint you a beautiful picture. So at the end of the video, you can decide for yourself, okay, this is for me or this isn't for me. It shouldn't be up to me to tell you. I want to just tell the story. And in the end, you can decide the ending, whether or not you want to pull the trigger and actually buy the product or move on, watch another video and find interest and value in something else.
Want to paint them the dream.
Yeah. But now, I see the Nike sneakers app and they're doing exactly what I've done. No one's done that before. We were the first to do it. Nike never showed styling sneakers. They never cared. And we had a voting system always. It was like, which outfits do you prefer? Do you like this? Do you like that? It was the whole engagement aspect that really made my community tight-knit. What do you think started popping up on their app? It was this engagement portion. We always tapped into our community by having polls. They never had polls on their app.
So the thing is, because you were part of the community, you understood what you would want to watch as a member of the community.
Yes.
You gambled on yourself that this will be something that's cool and engaging. And if nothing else, you gambled on the uniqueness, the unique value of this will make me a destination channel. You can't go somewhere other than Shade TV if this is what you like and this is what you appreciate. Once I get you to see this content, you're going to want more of it. So that was the bet you took on yourself.
100%.
And then
also,
again, people started aping you, including Nike.
It's crazy. And I get it. Like, even from the designer perspective, you're going to create something amazing. And then 30 people are going to go and try and make exactly your handbag or your dress that you
I've seen this happen before where creators do something original and brands then literally kind of start to mimic or ape their product. I've seen that happen in almost every niche you can think of. When it comes to creators doing something first and innovating. What have been some of the challenges with staying relevant in a world of copycats?
I think for me, I want to style things the way I'm going to style them. And I get a lot of, people talking behind my back saying like sneakers shouldn't be styled this way. I've always been authentic to who I am individually. And I think that's what's always set me apart. One of the things I've always done with sneakers is I wear them with dresses, and people are like, the two don't mix. Like, you should not be mixing dresses with sneakers.
Tell that to every girl I went to high school with.
I mean, but you know what I'm saying? It's so crazy to see this transition now that I think COVID, to be honest with you, was the perfect time for me to start the channel. I don't think that everyone was ready for it yet. And I do think there's a time and a place sometimes.
So there was the benefit to the captive audience of people just consuming as much content as possible, gave you the opportunity to be exposed.
For the first time, people were working from home, and they realized, like, I don't need to dress up. I can stay comfy and cozy. And as things started to slowly open up, it was almost becoming acceptable for women to now be wearing dresses and sneakers. It wasn't this typical stereotype of, oh, you can't go out to a bar or go out on a date and be in sneakers. Oh, that would be like against the rules and guidelines.
Some kind of like taboo.
Yeah, some kind of taboo. And I think that, that made it even more valuable to offer the option of, like, this is what you can do. If you can't visualize it, I'm going to give you those visualization cues as to how to figure out ways to style your dresses with sneakers.
So these were like stylescapes and mood boards for the sneaker community, especially the female sneakerheads out there. So, and then, and this is interesting because it would be obvious to some people that this would blow up on something like Pinterest or Instagram. Their first instinct isn't YouTube. What made you decide that YouTube was the platform for your brand?
I mean, we do own Pinterest on the images. So when anybody's searching, I like to think of things as an ecosystem. I use all platforms for different reasons, but
platform agnostic, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's, everything I need for a reason, but I do think beneficially in being able to monetize per platform, like the most transparent of them all is going to be the YouTube space. And
Facts.
I definitely think when working with brands, I just gain better relationships through going on the YouTube space when I'm targeting to understand and get the story out to them, which one will benefit them more product-wise. And I think, for us, we're a very product-driven channel.
Yes.
So a huge part of that is the SEO, and knowing that, when somebody's going on the Google search engine, what questions are they asking? And women are probably saying, what are the top 5 white shoes? What are the top shoes under $100? Or even just specific silhouettes. And I want to make sure that I own that space. And so anytime somebody is searching for a specific topic, I want them to know that I'm going to have a video on that.
So you want to dominate every search result in your niche, every question, every query, every input for your niche, for your specific thing, for your specific person, your audience avatar.
Exactly.
But why is it everyone says SEO is dead? If that's been so successful for you, why do you think people keep saying SEO is dead? Because clearly it's working for you.
Unfortunately, for us personally, I create my channel as a library. That's the way I think of it.
So a utility channel. Exactly.
So this is a place you're going, and it's perfectly indexed by brand, by product. And whenever somebody is going on the page, they're probably 100% likely going to find at least one of the seekers they're looking for.
Because this is how they would use, and how we used to use sites like Eastbay back in the day and stuff like that. We'd use Eastbay as the website, even the magazine. We'd go through the index and we'd go through kind of the catalog and try to just get to the thing that we care about.
Yeah, and I think like retro sneakers, for instance, or re-release products, like that's always going to happen in the sneaker industry. Prime example, the Samba and Gazelles from Adidas. Like, I was the only one doing those sneakers. People mocked me. They thought I was silly. They're like, oh, these are trash. These aren't hype. Like, why are you even talking about these sneakers?
Something for everybody.
Let me tell you, fast forward, it is the hottest sneaker. They will not keep that sneaker on shelves in retail departments.
So it's not in stock. It's hardly.
It's so hard to get a Gazelle or a Samba. It's almost nearly impossible. But I was the first one to start really getting videos on that product early on, because it has been something I've always worn since high school, and it's perfect for my foot type. I didn't care, even though it wasn't the cool sneaker at the time, we were early on that.
So first mover advantage.
Exactly. And also just diversifying myself with brands. I think a lot of individuals in my specific niche cater to just one brand, and that really limits
so
them.
They're more like fanboys and stuff like that. So
they're primarily Jordans and Nike. they would never cover any other product or Yeezy and Adidas. They're not going to jump into the other brands.
I get it. That makes sense. So you have this advantage. I think part of the reason you grow a subscriber base is there's enough of a variety within your specific thing. So you're not a variety channel, but you have variety within your niche audience.
Exactly.
And then you can have these sub pockets of audience, and there's enough to cater to them to say, I can also subscribe. So the thing is, if you only limit yourself to like one brand that you cover, this is why I tell people not to niche down too narrow like this. Niche down to an audience, not a thing.
Yes.
So niche down to a type of person, not a thing. Because now you have like, you can have 20 videos there for a specific type of sneakerhead that they can binge and enjoy. You're going to subscribe after 3 of the 20 videos. So, but you still have more to binge and to watch and to support. And then there's going to eventually be a video for you at some point. You don't have to watch everything. I think a lot of YouTubers get caught up in the idea that they want every subscriber to watch every single video. Instead of realizing you could make videos for just a sub portion of your audience and it's okay.
We have subgroups within our community. When I first started, so my first retainer I did was a 6-month, and then it got extended to a year. It was with K-Swiss.
And that's a brand deal retainer. That's a long-term contract, 6 months.
5,000 subscribers on YouTube when I was able to actually create this relationship. And I actually met the CEO in one of my Clubhouse chats, surprisingly.
Right.
And, you know, I was actually
This is really during pandemic times. Clubhouse,
Clubhouse, and I was getting pummeled. Like, women were being so rude to me in this conversation. And what a lot of people don't understand when you're on these platforms, you have to be careful. You never know who's in the room, you know? And I support everyone.
Yep.
I don't want to bring people down. I want to support, especially...
You just want to be a nice person.
Yes, and especially when, you know, there's so few women in this space, like... Why tear others down? There's no reason to. There shouldn't just be one.
Jealousy usually, but yeah.
And so, you know, the CEO said, Marissa, let's take this offline. I want to have a conversation. I really want to continue this because he valued what I was actually putting out there.
And probably valued the way that you carried yourself.
Yes.
A good reputation. Think about how many people could have had opportunities, how many people were bigger than you that burnt a bridge because they just couldn't stop being catty and they couldn't just be nice to somebody they disagreed with.
Yeah.
And they embarrassed themselves. And the thing is, that put them out of the running for an opportunity.
Exactly. And, you know, when I was speaking with the team over there, it was just an incredible experience as one of the first brands that I started working with. And what was cool, it was this long-term relationship. So I became the K-Swiss girl.
Yeah.
And I loved it. It wasn't Nike. It wasn't Jordan. You know, and I think that's the thing that people forget. You don't start out with the biggest brands.
Of course not.
As you're growing, you know.
K-Swiss is still pretty nice, though. That's still pretty big.
Listen, I wore K-Swiss. It was the shoe I could afford. My mom limited me to $50 or less with her Nordstrom discount, of course. So I was like, Mom, that doesn't even count. Like, come on. But K-Swiss was my go-to sneaker. And I had it in every baby blue, baby pink colorway because that was the thing.
I was a Fila kid.
Okay, you were a Fila kid.
Yeah, we were broke.
I used to get shoes from Walmart that had like the kind of, it was like a C Nike swoosh. So it looked like Nike if you hid your pant like just above it. So it looked like the actual swoosh mark, but it was really like a C. That's how they kind of like competed.
Instead of Nikes, they were fakies?
Yeah, it was a fakie. Yeah, but no one knew as long as my pant was covering the top of that weird like angled swoosh mark. So, you know, I think that understanding too, as far as economics go, everyone's coming from all over the price point range.
Yeah.
So I wanted to make sure with the channel that I wasn't covering just $200 sneakers because that wasn't something I could afford when I was growing up. And I knew that and I understood that. So K-Swiss was one of those foundation brands that I needed and I wanted to have on board for that specific reason because they made a difference in my life. And that was the foundation of when I started really getting into sneakers.
That's a good basis for brand deal relationships is not only the brands that you use today, but like your go-to, the thing you have a history with. You know, for me, Adobe changed my life. So like when I got the opportunity to work with them a few years ago and everything like that, I was like a kid in the candy store. I was like, what do you want me to do? What do you want? I'll give you whatever you want. Like, you know, I was just really excited, just happy to be, you know, asked. And it was like a dream come true. So I can imagine how you felt with that, especially at 5,000 subscribers. I mean, when I was a small creator, you couldn't get jack all at 5,000. You couldn't get stuff. They refuse you free product. You review units at 30,000 back in the day of us OG creators. If you think it was easier being an OG creator, it wasn't. It was like, so when you only had 5,000, was it they felt you brought to the table to be able to do a 6-month commitment with you, because a lot of people don't believe that there's any possibility to do. And this was, I assume, a paid brand deal sponsorship, not just product.
100%.
Not just product.
This was a guaranteed retainer deal. So I knew every month I had deliverables, and I knew I was going to make X amount every month with the extension possibility at the end of that contract. You know, I had that built in. But also, because I come from the modeling industry, I understand contracts very well.
And deliverables.
And understanding the whole packaging of everything and what works best for the company and what works also best for me. And I think just coming to an agreement and working organically that way is where you find most success with companies, but also showcasing where you see yourself growing to and becoming. I think because it was such a new channel, and I really had to paint them a picture of like where I saw our channel going.
You had to sell the dream.
Yeah. And, you know, so I actually ran into the CEO in New York literally like a couple weeks ago. And I hugged him and I was like, listen, Barney, like, you are a huge part of the foundation of my channel, and I cannot thank you enough. You were the only one who bet on me.
Yeah.
And because of you, like, you opened up doors to every other brand. Once I was working with K-Swiss, all of a sudden, all of the brands, I'm very proactive. So I'm like a cold caller.
You're a hustler, I know.
I reach out to everyone. I do my research and I reach out to people. I was not getting any emails back. No one was responding back to my messages. And all of a sudden, people started responding back. Hey, let's jump on a call. Want to speak to you. Really interested in working with you. But I needed K-Swiss's backing. That brand was so essential to me actually expanding into working with other companies.
That's incredible. And that's such a great story. And again, I think a lot of people who are small content creators don't think that they can do that. But I think I think there's some things that put you in a really good position for that. One, you even started from early on with what you had. You went hard and went in on just higher than average production values. So you went with that. You didn't phone anything in just because you were small. You came with what I'm starting to call big creator energy. Mm-hmm. So you were a small channel, but you came with big creator energy. I think they respected that.
You know what's funny, Roberto, is I was at a dinner the other night, and as somebody told me, they're like, I told them my subscriber count, and they were like, there is no way. The energy you're giving off is like, you've got a diamond plaque.
Yeah.
And it didn't hit me. I was like, what does that mean?
Big creator energy.
It really hit home though when you said it just now, because I'm like, it really is how you carry yourself, you know, and having that confidence. And the same as what I tell women with sneakers. It doesn't matter what you're wearing. As long as you're confident and comfortable in it, people aren't going to think twice or judge you in any way. But you have to hold yourself to a certain standard and carry yourself in a certain way. And that's what people will truly see.
Yeah.
And, you know, going back to, I guess, the quality of the content, I can tell you a prime example of why I'm so thankful I decided to go that direction as opposed to shooting on my phone to start. I was actually approached by a company who was putting together a documentary or docuseries, and they needed actual content to embed into their docuseries.
So they needed supplemental content, and it needed to pass the standards.
It had to be shot in 4K. It had to look a certain way. And we basically submitted the content to them, and they were like, this is incredible. This is exactly what we need to basically complete our docuseries. And then they decided, you know, we need you to be a part of this as well. Can you jump on board? We want you to interview. And all of a sudden I started getting more tidbits and information on the docuseries. It was in partnership with Jordan Brand.
Nice.
And I was like...
And that got you some industry connects. That got you some more credibility.
Oh my gosh.
That got you some love in the community.
I had no idea that when the team went to meet with Jordan Brand, they knew who I was. And they were like, we love her. Of course, we'd love to have her as a personality.
So they were fans of the content.
Yes.
You never know who's watching.
You never know.
And back then, how many views were you getting? On average on a video? On
average on a video, I would say we were around like 1,000 probably, but it depends on the product. It depends on the live.
But what, with those 1,000 to 5,000 views on a video, handful of them are people at Team Jordan.
Yeah, it's one of those things where the community is so small and your name will get passed around, especially when everything is changing and potentially they're looking for more women and they can't find them. So one thing leads to another, and maybe somebody came across my content and they're like, oh, I came across this girl, you should check her out. You know, and that's when all of a sudden you find these brands really doing the research and seeing who's out there. And when you're the only one really doing it and there's no other person, it kind of becomes this one case scenario of like, okay, she's the only one talking about sneakers. There's a lot of women out there taking photos, but like not actually holding and talking about technicalities and wear on them and what's best for you, what's not best for you. And, you know, we really were kind of the first to jump into that because I think women were always stereotyped as not being educated on sneakers. And it's really sad. Like people used to joke around at sneaker conventions with me and try and pull a fast one on me. Let's go up to her and try and ask her a question. You know, it was on like a Jordan 5 or something. And I went ham on them. The guy was like, holy shit. She gave us the whole backdrop on like Tinker Hatfield. She knows the history of Japan and like these airplanes and everything. And I was just like, I'm a history major. Don't mess with me. Like, I love information. I love history. Yeah. That's what makes this channel so much more fun because I get to really digest information. And I just am so hungry for that information. I love
and you get to do what's fun to you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I think that, you know, I was the first one. I was maybe under 10,000 at this point to ever license my content on a Hulu, ABC, like news docuseries. Like, how insane is that?
People think that they need to get to 100,000, a million, a 10 million, or they're irrelevant, or these opportunities don't exist for them. It is a myth.
It is a myth. Yeah. I literally was, you know, on stage preaching this. And I think it is different depending on your niche because some people will beg to differ and fight me to the death on this. They'll say that subscribers matter. I am like the pure example.
Again, it depends on your niche.
Yeah. I mean, you tell me, should I have signed with an agency around 8,000?
No, see, and I think that a big part of it, because everyone thinks about reach, but they don't think about reputation.
Yeah.
And they don't think about what it takes to build a good reputation. If you start out with small creator energy, then you're always going to be obsessed with the insecurity of your views and all these things. But if you go with big creator energy and you look at things like, oh, I'm doing TV production standards. I'm doing storyboards for my stuff. I'm sitting here and I'm doing aesthetics and stylescapes and all this stuff and cinematography, mastering the lighting and audio, sitting there looking at what are the production standards for Netflix and like what the Netflix approved cameras are. When you're doing that, and then you're also going into something that's tied to like e-commerce or product centric and consumerism. Why wouldn't you get looked at? There's people that have those gigs that make 6 figures doing the production, doing those things and doing storyboarding and directing that don't have a single follower on social media. They have a resume and a portfolio.
This is very true.
Old school still works. It still matters in this industry.
Still works. I mean, the professionalism that you bring to the table, and it's crazy because if I look back and say I did shoot poor quality, maybe they would have brought me on for my personality, but I would have made so much less.
Yeah,
like, I got to license out and got paid per minute on that content. You know, and I was just like, oh my God, like I am 100% going to be focused on high quality continuing this journey because of like how much I was able to make, you know, salary wise from that docuseries. I mean, it was incredible.
How much do you think your modeling background informed a lot of your process? Because for me, it was my background in advertising, marketing, graphic design, photography. I worked in creative services. I worked in having to do visual production level work for billboards, commercial advertising. In the entertainment, when I was at the agency, it was in the entertainment space. It was doing print OOH for cable broadcast entertainment brands. So sports, usually HBO Sports, some stuff with Madison Square Garden, you know, and what it gave me was this perspective, one, on the contracts for the brand deals from an agency perspective.
Yeah.
And then also the amount of advertising dollars that actually are available in budgets. Like a lot of creators don't realize how much money advertisers actually have or spend on a regular basis.
Oh, yeah.
Those things inform me. How did the modeling background inform you in terms of understanding deals, contracts, and setting all this up and understanding the value of your professionalism, your reputation, and then that, oh, there's personality value, aesthetic value just in representing a brand, having the right look, the right feel. But then the production value stuff, what role did that play?
Wow. So I always tell people I actually started modeling later. So I got my degree in broadcasting journalism and also a history degree in African history.
Nice.
And then after I graduated, I was just like, all my friends had wanted me to really just try modeling. So I was like, you know what? Why not? This is going to give me the opportunity to travel the world. But there was really at the time, there was no guidebook on how to become a model, and I'll never forget, I actually ran into Tyra Banks and her mom at a restaurant, and I was going to be on her show. I ended up not doing it.
You mean America's Next Top Model back in the day?
Yeah. And I, was in the finals to make the cut, but I was on a fluoride volleyball scholarship, and I ended up choosing, to continue, of course, my education instead of going on this reality show. Best decision, honestly, I could have made. But, come full circle, Tyra was like, what are you still doing out here in Washington? Like, you need to get out there and go model. And, she referred me to LA Models, which is crazy because I actually ended up signing with them. When I first moved to LA, I decided one day I'm just going to ship my car out there. I didn't know anyone. I just literally engulfed myself into a new city and had to just really learn the ropes. And it was a big learning curve. I came from a very small town where everyone is super helpful and you trust everyone, everyone's honest. So I definitely think that going back, I would have told myself a lot more things to help me kind of navigate that better. But contracts, 100%, really reading your contracts and understanding the rights of you as a person, because you can lose those rights if you don't read.
Oh, yeah.
And when I say rights, I'm talking about your image. People can
name,
own
image,
your
likeness.
Yes.
They can, it's like a lot of entertainers found out the hard way. We found that out about the WWE with a lot of the wrestling personalities and everything, that they didn't have a lot of the rights to their own name and their own likeness. It's insane.
Yeah, and just hidden fees, things that you get charged for that you're like, wait, what?
I've known creators to not have the rights to their own content on their own YouTube channel.
Listen, I can completely see that because I've seen it happen in the modeling industry, and I think times have changed a lot and there's been a bit more transparency with that.
Thank God.
And also just a lot more mentorship with these models. There's a lot more information out there that kind of helps guide them a bit better. But, I think I've always had my head on my shoulders, and luckily I started later. So I think I was more of an adult to be able to navigate and understand these contracts. I need to have somebody else read these and make sure that, this makes sense for me. And, just the percentages you're giving them and where it's going and what's getting taken out of your checks. But also just, I think the industry in itself, when I say I was a working model, I'm a working model. So I think people have this personification of, a model just does covers of magazines. And that's just not the case. Every model, number one, you want to land an e-com job. E-com is essential. That's consistent work. That's
Can you explain a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so e-com, my biggest e-com client for decades has been Nordstrom's, Amazon, Zappos, Target, Walmart. Those are companies that need to produce large amounts of images every single day in volume and bulk. Yeah. So that means, you're booking with these clients at least 2 to 5 days a week. And you're doing that for years.
With a day rate.
With a day rate, of course. And they're typically, larger day rates, but that you're guaranteed basically to get that rate every week. And depending, of course, on your market, it's different living in LA, which is a more commercial market. So in LA, you want to book commercial jobs because those are also the highest paying.
Yes.
So I would say between commercials, car commercials are on the higher end, big pharma, tech, those are on the higher end. So every model's dream really is to land at least one of those a month because you're making, you could be making 25 to 100K depending on the buyout.
Yeah.
And I was understanding terminology early on. What is a buyout? Are they buying out my image for 1 year, 2 year? Is it in perpetuity?
In perpetuity, yeah.
These are terms that, I'm lucky because a lot of creators are running into these same terms.
Oh, right here at VidCon, a creator was licensing their library. I won't name the creator, but over 1,000 videos in their back catalog for a mid 6-figure deal. And I told him, you better go back over that contract and you better know the expiration date of this licensing agreement. And it better not say the words in perpetuity or screwed. You want it to be maybe 2 to 3 years of licensing this. And then you need to keep growing and blowing yourself up so that when you come back to renegotiate that you can eat and get another bigger deal that's 6 to 7 figures and eat again, because otherwise, they're buying you too cheap. If it's forever, you don't want to give them the licenses forever. You want to also look for the word exclusivity here, because I'm like, you should consider re-syndicating your back catalog on X and a couple other of these platforms to make some money off of that before
100%.
this thing ever gets inked, so you can still make money in perpetuity and exclusivity.
Prime example of
red flags.
Exclusivity, where you learn about that in modeling. Typically, that would happen with like maybe a hair care brand.
Yeah.
So, say I shoot for a specific hair care line, they don't want you competing with other hair care lines because maybe they want to use you on campaigns everywhere, and this is a specific product they want to pitch to the consumer that's working for your hair. Well, if all of a sudden you're popping up on 5 different other brands, people are going to be confused, and they'll be like, all right, so is she a Curacao girl or is she a Garnier Fructis girl?
Yeah, it used to mean something like to be the new Neutrogena girl,
right?
Like,
you know, if you're a Maybelline girl, you're L'Oreal, like it wouldn't make sense then if you're an Estee Lauder or a MAC girl. I mean, they're going to be like, what's going on
So
here?
you need to also have exclusivity per category and say, okay, here are the categories I can compete in, and if I'm doing, exclusivity in it, I can't have like, crossover or conflicts, and I need to know, which brands are going to be okay with each other, which ones are compatible. Same thing happens in tech, by the way.
Well, you don't want to lie about that stuff either, because they will find out. And they will pull all of those funds back from you and potentially sue you.
Yeah.
So, these are things that, for creator's sake as well, always read the fine lining, because the fine lines, like if it says, have you shot for a company like this in the past 6 months to a year, and you decide, I want the money over being transparent with them.
Having any integrity,
Yeah, you never know where they're going to find that image of you, or, you could pop up in a freaking grocery store and they're like, wait a second, is that her eating a burrito? And I was like, oh, I guess I forgot to mention, I did model for Costco hot dogs one time.
Did you really?
Yeah, no. I've not. Okay. I've actually modeled a lot for Costco magazines.
Okay.
So you probably definitely seen me in a Costco catalog before.
Yeah, no, I'm a big Costco fan.
Not for the hot dogs. No, I haven't
big
done
Costco
that.
fan. I love those hot dogs. You never change that bloody price. You keep it at $150. I don't care what you have to do.
But yeah, so also different types of modeling as well. So the other type of opportunity in New York, it's more editorial and showroom. So I was a showroom model, and showroom is amazing because you're usually booked out per season. So whenever it's like fall, winter, or spring, summer releasing, you want a showroom client.
Right.
And showroom clients mean that's guaranteed booking for about 3 months.
Nice.
And so that's typically during market week. So that also runs along the same time as fashion week, which when I first moved to New York, I was like, I want to be in fashion shows. I'm going to do runway. And then you realize runway doesn't pay anything.
No.
And it takes all day. And so I was like, you know what? I would much prefer to do showroom modeling, but you actually get to meet buyers of these stores. So you're meeting
decision makers.
The decision makers who are deciding like, I want to buy X, X, and X. This is my demographic. So I was really learning what companies were really interested in buying and per store. Like I started to know like, okay, Neiman Marcus is coming in. They're going to want to buy something like this. So we're going to probably put these pieces on because this is their clientele. If it's a client or a boutique from Miami, I'm like, they're going to want something a little bit sexier.
Yes.
So we're probably going to pitch them these pieces, and you start understanding the different markets and the stores and what they really cater to and what's like a safe play for them. So those are
Makes
things
total sense, yeah.
too, where you can be a sponge as a model, or some models just don't care, and they're like,
being aloof,
they're just there for the job. And I think too, editorial is kind of like the dream for everybody. You think that this is okay, going to pay thousands of dollars. No, editorial, there's no money in it.
I can tell you as a photographer, there's no money in
There
it.
isn't. And I would say though, for your book, it's great. So not to say that it's not good.
No, it's leverage. It's reputation
leverage.
building. So like, some things you do for reach, some things you do for revenue, aka the money part, something you do for reputation sake, and then some things you do because of the relationships that you get to build off of it.
Exactly. And also just running around the city and casting. Like castings are just the grind of the job that most people don't really enjoy because, you're having to wait with about 50 girls that look exactly like you. It's so funny when you're like, hi, I wonder where my casting is. I'm like, all these girls look like me.
Top model they called the go-sees.
Yeah, it's like, all right, I'm in the right place because everybody here looks like me.
Yep.
And it's one of those things, in modeling, which is quite interesting. You don't get to have a voice, really. You're an object essentially, and you just have to.
Well, you're a product.
You're a product. And so, in saying that, there's nothing you can do. You just have to be the right look at the right time for the right person for the right product.
But that's actually sometimes can work to your advantage, because I tell people that that's the advantage even when you're small in getting brand deals is like, okay, you think it's all about reach? No, you could be the right representation and the right relatability to sell the dream to the customer, and that will matter more, because having 1 million subscribers doesn't matter if you're the wrong person to sell the dream. It doesn't matter. So, so you could be smaller, you could be an unknown, you can be a first timer. And so there is something to that.
Well, and going into these castings, I realized that I have a personality. I need to use this personality. And if they're seeing 50 girls,
stand out, be memorable.
Exactly. And I started booking jobs where my agents would be like, Marissa, did you meet the casting director? Because they're raving about you and your story, and you guys both came from the same town or something like that. And it just started to click. Wow, I need to engage with these people and showcase more than just this photo and this book that I'm presenting to them, because I'm so much more than that. And I realized that that was my true success in modeling. And I translate that still to this day when I'm talking to brands. But because I've modeled for Nike and Adidas and I've been on that side of the camera, I understand it full circle now. And so I'm not just playing this guessing game of what does this brand look for? How do I talk to them? And I always am looking to reach out to C-level, entities. I'm not looking to start at the bottom. I always want to start at the top, and I want to
with the decision maker.
With the decision maker, exactly. And I want to cut to the chase. Basically, it's very New Yorker of me.
Yeah, facts. No, I'm very similar in that regard. I think that it's a dynamic of, as much as people hate quote unquote hustle culture, they refuse to learn any lessons from it as a result of the fear of the exhaustion, the burnout, and everything like that. It's if your worst fear is burning out, maybe this isn't for you, because it's something you have to be willing to confront. Is it worth having that experience and overcoming it? If your dream is big enough, if your vision is big enough, again, that big creator energy. It's not to say that burnout isn't real and that's not bad, but it's are you willing to go through some bad times and bad things to get where you want to be and where you want to go? Or you want, so that New Yorker thing, we have that in common.
It's basically a thick layer of skin that we built. And I've had a hard upbringing. I've had to work for every little thing growing up in my life. I used to use this analogy where I didn't have enough money to pay for my lunches, really, when I was in school.
Right.
We were that broke, and I would wash dishes while everyone was at recess. And I used to say, while everybody was at school at play, I was working, washing dishes. And I still use that analogy because it's that grind. I'm trying to survive, and I was trying to survive.
It's that situation where it's that. Hey, when other people are playing, when other people are sleeping, when other people are coasting, when other people are on vacation, I'm still getting at it because. And you could say the world should be a better place. Boo hoo. But all right, I'm not going to say die. I'm not going to surrender. I'm not going to take that for an answer. And that's the difference of why someone like you makes it, someone like me makes it. Yes, success is rare, but not because of luck. It's rare because most people won't pay the price that's demanded.
Exactly. I mean, I learned a lot of lessons early on, and it wasn't pretty, but it shaped who I am today. And it made me a more prepared individual to go up against any type of obstacle put in front of me and not giving up. And also, I played sports my whole life. We're team players, and teamwork makes the dream work. The stronger your team is as well. I started very small with my team, and now it's expanded. But I know that, you are as strong as your weakest link on your team.
Yes, every time.
Every single time. And this is something sometimes you can't even just teach. You have to go through it. You have to experience it.
I would agree. There are some things where I've learned this as a teacher, that you do have to recognize a lesson that has to be and can only be learned through experience, which actually is heartbreaking as a teacher when you know that, oh, wow, if I could save you from this pain, I would. And knowing deep down that you can't. So that's rough as a teacher. I would say that. But there are some things that can only be learned through experience, and it's part of the price that has to be paid. It's the iron price. It's the iron price.
It really is.
To get that thick skin.
It's funny. When I started playing volleyball in middle school, I was so little. I was tiny. I looked like I was going to break. And I remember my middle school coach, not having any faith in me and saying, I don't know if I can put you on varsity. You're kind of like a twig. You might break. And, fast forward to my senior year, I got so many scholarship offers.
Nice.
And she tells my story. all the time to the younger, girls and says, don't give up on your passion, because I knew a girl once who I didn't believe in. And fast forward, she was given every opportunity possible to succeed and get higher education because, she worked her butt off and did everything she could to be successful in that sport.
Talent without work is nothing.
I didn't have a ride. I found the best team. We traveled an hour and a half to get one way to practice, an hour and a half back. Yep. My parents couldn't take me. I had to convince one of my friends to join the team so we could ride together.
Wow.
I did everything because I wanted to play volleyball so bad.
That's called wanting it enough. And I know a lot of people resent this idea and everything, but sometimes you just don't want it enough. I want to go back to something you said about teamwork and about the early days and starting small. What did your team look like in the beginning? What does it look like today? And then in terms of, can we talk about cost and expenses for production and some of those things? Because everyone loves to talk about, oh, well, we're grossing this much in revenue, but no one talks about expenses. And I would love to know kind of the inside baseball on high production.
Yeah, I think at the very start, I had to become a part of a lot of different underground snooker communities because I really wanted to be in the loop all the time, all day long, every second of the day. And I gained a lot of friendships in this community. And I actually would put in this community when I needed help. And people started helping me. Maybe nice. I couldn't get a sneaker, so someone would send me the sneaker. So it wasn't coming out of my pocket. I would pay of course, for them to ship it to me, and I would ship it back. But that support early on, just explaining to people, hey, I am having a struggle with this and that, and people would just respond to it. So
not being too proud to ask for help.
I was so stubborn early on in life. I think I was always trying to do too many things, trying to wear too many hats, and I always felt bad asking for help. And when I started, I convinced someone to basically learn how to edit. And he was like, really? Came from the business side of things. He's like, you really want me to learn how to edit? And I was like, yes, you're going to be amazing at it. And, we both kind of had cameras already just that we had used. It wasn't the highest quality cameras, but they were good enough.
What were your early cameras?
Sony A7.
Okay, that's nice. That's good.
All right, so it was just sitting around. All right, I know that's not normal.
No, I was on a Bobo Nikon D3200, so it's so for me here in Sony A7, I'm like, nice.
Yeah, okay, so nice. That's not your typical, but
but I get it too.
It had dust on it, to say the least.
Fair.
So we had to undust it. But that
clean that sensor.
Yeah. We didn't have the dual camera like you have right now, but so also with audio, it was so echoey. I lived in a loft space, so it was just my audience was actually saying to me, hey, Marissa, you're a little echoey and pitchy. So I started getting these clothing racks and using clothes to go all over and surrounding me in my kitchen.
So you're using clothes as the sound dampening?
Yeah.
Oh man, that is so ghetto. I love it.
It was unique. I wish I would have taken more photos of my first setup because it was very humorous. I didn't have lights. We were using phones to really shine lights on me on the setup. It was such a mom and pop workshop.
I love it.
To start. But also, my fans, when I would go live, I would tell them these things and they would donate. And that was it just means the world to me to look back and see that support system that I had from the start of me being just so vulnerable and saying I'm so sorry, my sound's not great or my light's a little dark. I just, I'm trying to work my way up to better my quality of my content and I want to really increase the budget.
Are those videos still up and around?
Oh yeah. I don't ever want to take them down just because, I look back and man, I've come a long ways.
Right.
I really have. But I had no budget at the start. Again, I was out of work during COVID. No one was
a lot of people, yeah.
And so, I had to be really savvy and efficient with what I was spending my money on. But anytime I would get donations, that always went back to the channel.
Yep.
Every single time I was putting that towards new equipment, even just investing in a tripod, instead of balancing a camera on your books and holding it up in between a pasta sauce.
Oh my Lord.
There's things that everyone didn't get to see on the backside of things, but also, editing a video that took maybe 4 days to do because we're learning how to use Premiere and things like that. And, my intern loaning us his, name so we could get a discount off of Premiere, like, because I couldn't afford it. Like, just things like that, cutting costs.
Yeah.
And just really being savvy got us a long way, like a really long way.
So what do you shoot on, and what's the stuff today, and what's the expense for having a team?
I mean, we have the same exact equipment. Yeah.
So we're shooting professional full-frame Sony cameras.
I'm just looking. I'm like, Roberto, this could just be my exact same setup right here. Yeah.
These are my field cameras. Like back at the house, we got the FX30 and sorry, not FX30, FX3 and the A7S3. These are two A7 Mark IVs right now.
Okay, so we have the A7 Mark IVs as well, two of them. We were shooting with some Fuji equipment, but again, as you know, like when you're shooting with different companies and the quality and coloring scheme
is inconsistent.
Oh my gosh, color matching. And
I used to have a Fuji. I loved it for photography. I loved it for B-roll, but it just was not, the color matching wasn't there and everything. It was a fun toy to have, and I loved them.
The Fuji cameras look great. They look like antiques, you know. And
but gotta be a Sony.
Sad. It was really sad, honestly, to have to like not mix and match equipment. But then in the editing room, you realize like you really got to stick with one team
ecosystem, man. Yeah,
you know. And so also, you know, we have like the DJI and
for the microphones or the drone.
Some of our team, they're working on their drone licenses, so stay tuned. You may see some drone footage at some point in time. But lights as well, mics. We use Sennheiser mics now, which I mean, I use
the wireless Sennheiser mics. I'm experimenting with the DJI wireless mics.
We do have the DJI wireless mics, and those are easier to pack and travel with.
Yeah, I have the version 2. The Mark IIs are good.
Okay, yeah. So red carpets are kind of like a new extension of what we've been doing, and just for interviews, the Sennheiser sounds like butter, and
it does.
I just can't go back.
It's so expensive though.
I have done a lot of work to earn my Sennheiser. Mike, shout out to B&H. You are the dream team.
Yes.
I owe it to them for making just the sound quality.
Is that the wireless Sennheiser or?
No, it's
the wired. So it's kind of like this, interview style.
One day I do have a Shure mic that's actually a Supreme Shure mic, so I'm pretty hyped with some of my equipment as well. You know,
nice.
One of 100, Roberto. I got to be really, out there with. Hey,
you got to be extra. You got to be extra. Yeah.
Oh, these sold out within like 30 seconds. Sorry. It's also connected to my karaoke machine that's also Supreme. So yeah.
Hey.
I know we do it all on the Shade Channel. I just haven't sang that much for everybody yet. But I think with equipment though, it was really one of those things that it became almost like a reward at the end of the year. Where
I agree with that.
I looked at it as, okay, like we earned this. I know this costs this or this, but also like we had friends who would help us with discounts and things like that. So I always say ask around. Like if you can't afford an upgrade with your camera equipment, just see if you know anybody who like maybe works for a company.
And used gear, I sell every time I upgrade. I bless somebody with a really big discount on my used gear. Yeah. Now, why wouldn't you just donate or give it away? It's like, I want somebody who's worked for it, that respects what it is, because I want them to love and care for it the same way as me. And I know if they sacrificed for it and they had to pay something for it, I know that they'll honor it the same way I did. Because when you get my gear, you get it like it was out of the box. You sometimes even actually get the box.
Yeah. I mean, my Sennheiser mic was not brand new. Yeah. I don't care. That is my child. I cradle that thing now because it's so expensive. But
you see, sometimes I take better care of my gear than I take care of myself when I travel.
And especially if it's used. I mean, usually people take care of their equipment because it is so expensive. Yeah. So I don't mind getting used gear. It's honestly, it's no big deal to me.
Yeah.
But again, like you don't need crazy intense equipment at the start. Just work your way up, and it is a dark hole though when we all go down it.
It does, yeah.
It keeps going and it never ends. And Sony,
gear acquisition syndrome is a sickness.
I hate going to electronic events because then Sony's like, "Oh, this is our new upgrade.
Take my money."
I was just like, "What do you mean you're upgrading this?" And yeah, it is like, take my money, whatever you want, I'll take it.
Yep.
But the quality of your equipment later on, looking back, like I am really happy that that we started with that Sony equipment. And, you know, even
it
though
makes a huge difference for the brand deals. I keep telling people your production value really, really helps a long way in your negotiations with brands, and no one talks about that.
No one, and also with modeling, you know, I was lucky. I always was asking the videographer and photographers about their equipment and lighting, and I learned a lot. But again, that's me being a sponge and going out of my way. They're like, "What's this model doing? Asking this." I'm like, "What kind of gimbal you got over there?" You know, it's just like always just learning and seeing like what's the hottest piece of equipment or what can make our team's life easier. You know, that's all I want is to like cut my time in half and work more efficiently, because time really is the thing I'm always needing more of.
100%. I think that's true for every creator. I always tell people that there's an acronym called TIME, and it's time, freedom, investment capital, manpower, and then your experience and expertise. And that's the acronym for time. But those are the bottlenecks for being a successful creator a lot of the time when you're starting out. You don't have time. Oh, I don't have the money to invest in this stuff. I don't have extra people to help me.
We call it the excuse makers, right, Roberto?
True.
But sometimes it is excuse. And so now we're like, how do we fix those excuses?
Yeah. I mean, I can say that those are all real things, but you should know that going in with your eyes open and just do the work to overcome them. You went and you asked for help. You knew you needed more manpower. You needed more people to do the vision of what you wanted. So you asked for help. You know, it was like, okay, I'm not going to be too prideful. I'm going to do that. Oh, I don't have experience. I'll ask questions.
Learning things I don't want to. Like, I didn't want to be in the editing room, and here I am, you know, on an airplane in a turbulence situation, like editing a video. I'm like, oh, God, I just deleted to have my video on accident.
How many hours is the average editing turnaround for something as high production as yours?
I mean, it depends. Like, we're pretty efficient with how we do our sneaker unboxing videos just because we've got, like, our whole, system going. I would say, like, longer videos for vlogs. I need to come up with my storyline and how I want to piece together all that information. So that can take like a solid week for me to just be like, okay, this is the order. This is how I want it to look, and really making the music match the feeling.
How many hours a day during those weeks?
Oh my gosh, the editing room is a time warp, Roberto. Like, I'm a late nighter too, so I could start editing something at 8. Next thing I know, it's 4 a.m. and I'm still not done. Like, I was starting a vlog actually coming here, and I was working on it for about 4.5 hours. So I got probably like 45% of it done in 4.5 hours.
So somewhere between like 10 and 20 hours round trip of editing alone. And that's
depending on the type of video.
And not counting production on top of that.
Exactly. And, you know, like fixing the sound, fixing the lighting, like just when you're cutting everything down and like really micro focusing on every element, that's like where the time starts adding up.
But that's for the higher quality, harder to compete on high effort content.
And looking through hours of footage, you know, like that's also the hardest part is you're looking through all the footage. And
so even the pre-production, I
chop up, you know, like I have to look through the hours and hours of film that I've done, and then I have to like plop it over and kind of cut out what I don't want to use. And I have a time range of how long I want the video to be. So it's really just, I think the most work goes into watching it all to see what I have.
So pre-production, then production, selects, and then post-production and finishing, probably a 50-hour round trip per video. At least at the top range.
For the top range videos, for like more of the longer, I would say like 30-minute videos that we have, it could be around that time frame.
Right. And then like a shorter minimum one is somewhere in a 10, like a low lift video is 10 to 20.
No. Low lift video we could probably do in an hour and a half. Like,
well, I'm talking including pre-production and production.
Oh, no. Yeah. I mean, I would say around. We've gotten to shooting in bulk, which I think is a saving grace.
Smart, yeah.
So we now, instead of shooting like a sneaker a day, it's like we'll shoot 10 to 15 sneakers a day.
Smart. That's what I'd tend to like to do, yes.
Yeah, so I think when we do it that way and cut it up, I would say it's on average probably 4 hours of video.
Okay. If you didn't do that, it would extend that a little bit more.
I'd probably say 7 hours.
To about 7 or 8 hours.
Probably because you're doing each one in pieces, styling it in pieces, you know, and going to another location in pieces.
So batching is the efficiency there. A lot of female content creators I've talked to say they don't want to batch because they're worried about like being judged on repeating the same clothing or same like nails or hair and stuff, and they feel they'll get called out for that. Do you ever worry about that?
No one can remember, honestly. I don't really.
And no one's consuming the content in order anyway.
So I think, usually our videos don't go out in order. So if you are doing batch recording, maybe just using the same clothing is fine. But typically, like, we're not posting those videos back to back to back. So like right now we've shot 3 months of content already. So before we came out here, we shot about 45 sneakers. So now I can go kind of on autopilot, at least for that content. And for instance, we're going to Anime Expo next week, so now I can focus just on that. So I'm not overwhelming myself, because that would be a lot to think about where, oh my God, I have like 25 sneakers I still have to shoot, but I also have to shoot this live content, and also the editing for that type of content.
Yes.
That's where we're getting into the 50-hour, kind of
Gotcha.
build out. Yeah.
So that makes sense. So I think we've covered a lot of ground. We've talked about brand deals. We've talked about production, editing. We've talked a little bit about your journey and the importance. I guess my last few things for you here are, what would you say today to somebody just starting out as a content creator? You've now literally kind of done it all, seen it all. You've worked with some of the biggest brands in your niche. You've achieved the dream, the silver play button, the 100, and YouTube presented it to you here at VidCon of all things.
It was one of the most special moments, honestly, Roberto. I mean, I feel so privileged and just so thankful every day, for the opportunities I've been given. And I know that a lot of people don't get these opportunities. So you have to be grateful for everything,
Absolutely,
that you get in life. And it was such a special moment to receive that here.
What would be advice if you were going to give like maybe 3 or 5 tips to a brand new content creator that's starting out today in a post-pandemic world? Yeah,
I mean, I think don't settle for less of anything in any direction you're going. And I think that also I created this as a tree almost. So YouTube was just the foundation and door opener to thousands, millions of limitless things I wanted to accomplish and do. And looking back now, I have my own production team. I have my own media outlet that I've created with, 15 staff writers. I've now gotten to a point where I'm releasing my own sock line this year. I now have my own consulting business that I started this year. And we're now creating unscripted video content on things that I've dreamt of creating content around, where I'm getting other roles, not just being a host, but executive producing. So everything I've ever wanted to do, I have accomplished because I've had interest in it. And I feel like as a creator, you can do anything you want to do if you set your mind to it. And so if I want to be a freaking astronaut and I want to go interview NASA, don't let anyone stop you. I think in media, for instance, people were interviewing me and they weren't actually posting my interviews. They were wasting my time. And I wasn't getting invited to things because I wasn't a media source. But media sources also didn't want to hire me. So I got to a point where I'm like, screw it. I'm going to create my own media outlet. I'm going to do it on my own.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, and because I did that, I'm getting invited to the things that people turn their shoulder on me for, and topics I was basically getting interviewed for, I'm now writing on. But I'm the writer. I'm not the interviewee. So it's just, I've learned that if somebody stands in your way, figure out a way on your own to do it yourself, And what's amazing is it's my own media outlet. What are you going to do? Fire me?
I love this. I love that energy. I love this big creator energy here.
These are my socks. My first exclusive sock was actually in partnership with YouTube.
Isn't that amazing? That is wild. That's wild. I definitely going to need a pair of those. Yeah.
Yes, we were going to get you a pair.
Yes. It's like, actually, I'm going to need 2. I'm going to need them to wear to YouTube events like this when I'm showing a little ankle. And I'm going to need a pair to just keep for the collection with all my anime socks.
That's amazing. We're going to get Roberto a couple pairs, and we're going to have some different color variations too. So We'll send you those as well.
No, appreciate it. Well, thank you so much, Marissa, for taking the time. Congrats again on 100,000 subscribers.
Thank
your
you.
Own media outlet, your own sock brand, your own consultancy, just everything you're doing, just all around crushing it. And just thank you for always hanging out with me whenever I'm in New York. It's always been a great time, and at these events and everything. And I'm sure we'll see you again soon. We will, as my friend Palpatine would say, we will watch your career with great interest.
Well, it's always a pleasure chatting with you, Roberto. Roberto and I can honestly talk for half a day and not realize where the time's gone. So I can't wait for the next adventure and to see all your success as well.
All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you.